All right, all right, Shalom. First off, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to my power, Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai. Double honors to the apostles at Great Millstone who rule well. Salutations to all the Akim who are pushing this word in sincerity and in faith. So we had the recount in Florida taking place for the votes, towards the governor or whatever the case is. But while looking at that, I was thinking about the comparisons of Rome and America. So as I thought about that, I started to think about Star Wars, and I started thinking about how Star Wars had a Senate, much like Rome. And, so I just looked it up and tried to see if maybe somebody else, had the same comparison. And the History channel, or actually www.history.com, had an article on it. So this is shit. This is from about damn near 3 years ago. The real history that inspired Star Wars. Alright. So there he is. Obviously a Edomite. He could be a Jake. I don't know. Who knows? We'll just go through the many comparisons. One of the comparisons is Nazi Germany, which in a way, this Babylon has some nationalism issues. So it says there's nothing subtle about this historical illusion in Star Wars. After all, the elite assault forces, fanatically devoted to the Galactic Empire, share a common name with the paramilitary fighters who defended the Nazi Party, stormtroopers. The Imperial officers' uniforms and even Darth Vader's helmet resemble those worn by German army members in World War II, and the gradual rise of Palpatine from Chancellor to Emperor mirrored Adolf Hitler's similar political ascent from counselor to dictator. The Empire wasn't the only side in Star Wars that cribbed Nazi imagery, however. The final scene of the original 1977 Star Wars, in which Princess Leia awards medals to rebel heroes Luke Skywalker and Han Solo while soldiers stood at attention, echoed the massive Nazi rallies in Nuremberg captured in Lenai Riefenstahl's 1935 propaganda film Triumph of the Wall. So whoever, obviously George Lucas, not only does he read the scriptures, he reads a lot of history. Only somebody who is in depth with history would know to mirror those sort of things. I'm not even going to go through Richard Nixon. I'm not going to go through that one. Vietnam War. The guerrilla war waged by the Rebel Alliance against the Galactic Empire mirrored the battle between an insurgent force and a global superpower that was playing out in Vietnam as Lucas wrote Star Wars. The filmmaker, who was originally set to direct to the Vietnam War film Apocalypse Now in the early 1970s before moving on to Star Wars, said in an audio commentary on the 2004 re-release of Return of the Jedi that the Viet Cong served as his inspiration for the furry, forest-dwelling Ewoks, who were able to defeat a vastly superior opponent in spite of their primitive weapons. As William J. Astora writes in Star Wars and History, both the Viet Cong and Ewoks were well served by their superior knowledge of the local terrain and an ability to blend into their terrain. All right, so you got the old school picture. Now, if you look in this picture right here, there's a lot of things that you'd pass right by. Okay, so ultimately, Esau's running the show. Like, these are all like in the pictures right here. Like, these are all Edomites for the most part. You know what I'm saying? So when you think about Darth Vader, right? you could think of him. You could think of him in a Nazi sort of way because he's devoted. He's definitely devoted to his cause. He's devoted to his to his leader, who ultimately was Emperor Palpatine. They were trying to make their nest among the stars, which obviously they conquered that in the Death Star or whatever the fuck. Um, you see, Luke Skywalker, right, was supposed to be the son of a bad guy, right, who's supposed to come around and somehow save the universe, and that's just a reiteration of like Israel. So like the Jedi's essentially are the wise men and the apostles in the world of the Israelites. Like if you think about it, right? Like so Yoda is the wisest of all the Jedi's, supposedly. You know what I mean? What is he? He's meek, he's humble, he talks rarely. When he does talk, it has meaning. And he goes by the book. Whatever Jedi code they got going on, because I was never too big into Star Wars, but whatever Jedi code they got going on, he stick to it. He lived a very humble life. When it became time to get down, he'd pull out his lightsaber, and do his thing, because he wielded the sword the best. That's what made him, or his wisdom, his infinite wisdom, and whatever Jedi, blah blah. That ability gave him his powers. You know what I mean? So essentially, even the holograms, right? So Obi-Wan Kenobi, right, keeps sending messages to Luke Skywalker. People send messages through like a hologram. Well, that's the apostles today. You send in certain bits of information through the internet in order to connect with other people and have certain dialogue. So you can see the comparisons. Yeah, Rome had a Senate. They had a Senate in Star Wars. They had a quote unquote president per se. They had a military, what I'm saying, that was all across the galaxy and had a hold on the galaxy. Not only that, the reason why they fell, right, is because the opposite force, right, the rebel force, came up against them and ultimately kicked off some sort of war, right, in which a small remnant number of people are actually surviving through this. Because shit, even in the newest Star Wars movies, Luke Skywalker is alive. So you could consider him as the hopeful elect. Really, because he's still alive. I mean, he's like the ultimate apostle, right? Like, isn't he the guy who was going up against the bad guys, right? Got the proper way, proper understanding from somebody. He seek wise counsel, He's quick with the sword. You know what I mean? He's a quote unquote heart, nice, genuine kind of person. He's what every Israelite should be like. He was very learned, you know what I mean? And really, man, the whole comparison is really, it's evident. Okay, this is ancient Rome. The political institutions of Star Wars, such as the Senate, Republic, and Empire, and the pseudo-Latin names of characters such as Chancellors Valorum and Palpatine echo those of ancient Rome. So yeah, Palpatine, that sounds a lot like, that could be a lot of people, Pontius. Valor. And I know valor means, something, glory, As Tony Keane notes in Star Wars and History, the architecture on the planet Naboo resembles that of Imperial Rome, and the pod race in the Phantom Menace rivals that of the Roman chariot race seen on the screen in Ben-Hur. So this guy, he's definitely, he's definitely on to something here, because in the in the Phantom Menace, if you remember the one from the early 2000s, they're racing in a gladiatorial-like state, just like in Rome. And today we have NASCAR, amongst other sorts of races, horse races, whatever the case is. And that all ties in. So essentially, Star Wars is just a galactic Rome, you know. And George Lucas definitely, he reads the scriptures. The transition from the democratic galactic republic to the dictatorial galactic empire over the course of the franchise also mirrors that of ancient Rome. Yeah, because at first when you had Rome started off, not good per se, but it wasn't all out calamity. It wasn't until the money started getting messed up and ultimately the economy crashed, and they just had an overall collapse of the government and military industrial complex. It wasn't until then that you really knew, okay, there's something going on here. Like, it started off as the Galactic Republic. Everybody was trying to figure it out in the beginning, Star Wars. And then hell, by the time you got to the what do you call it? I can't remember which one it is. But when they have the robots with the 666 on the back of them, the Clone Wars. Yeah, Clone Wars. When they had the damn Clone Wars, that's when they decided to become the Galactic Empire. Much like how they're trying to do now. That was the one world order that they were trying to implement over the galaxy, which, they're trying to implement a one world order here. But unfortunately, they're not going to be able to do that. It says, it is plain that the basic structure of Lucas's history derives from the fall of the Roman Republic and the subsequent establishment of a monarchy. Okay, the Knights Templar. While the elite Jedi who guard peace and justice in the Galactic Republic bear similarities to Japanese samurai and Shaolin monks, they also echo the medieval monastic military order of the Knights Templar. Now, really, this they're kind of missing the mark with this one. This is the Jedis are really the Israelites, because when you think about it, there was a lot of Jedis. If you remember, a lot of Jedis got smoked. Majority of them, if you remember, so only a small remnant remained, much like Israel, right? And not only that, but the samurais, right? The Japanese samurais, those are based off of Jake too. Shaolin monks, those are based off of Jake. Knights Templar, those are based off of Jake. So everybody's just basically copying Israel, because Israel was doing all that, way before all that. So so essentially the Jedis, right, are just the remaining people in Rome. If you remember, the Jedis never fought in the councils. They were forced to be there in a way. Just like we're forced to be here, and we're not supposed to rise up against our captors, because we are we are in captivity, but they never rose up. It wasn't until they started killing Jedis that they had to do something, and ultimately, they don't really speak on a spiritual power in Star Wars, but, never mind, yeah, they do, the Force. So they got the Force, and, they're calling upon the Force in order to take down the galactic empire that they're setting up. And I've seen the most recent Star Wars that I have seen is I've seen Rogue One, and I've seen the one before that. And those were actually, those were excellent movies. Because it just goes to show, man, that a resistance will always be apparent. The Most High is going to have sedition, sedition amongst men, most definitely. And Satan's going to be against Satan. So, Edomites against Edomites. Let me just finish reading this. The Templars, in Star Wars and history were esteemed above other knights for their austerity, devotion, right? And what's that? Like the man of the Lord. And moral purity. And what's that? The scriptures, knowing the scriptures. Like the Jedi, they practice individual poverty within a military monastic order that commanded great material resources. So if you remember, right, the Jedi are basically the top elite of the Jedi are basically like the apostles here on the earth today. Because how did Yoda live? Yoda probably made enough money, or could have made enough money, in order to have a palace and all this other stuff. He was off on some other planet, you know? So they were always living within a certain way, you know? And they, in a way, they were captive too. They just couldn't really fight, you know, until a certain time. A 12-member council of elders headed by a Grand Master governed both the Jedi and the Templars. So, you know, like the 12 disciples. If you watch on Star Wars, the top 12 Jedi aren't like the 12 disciples, obviously, or whatever the case is. But there are 12 elder members, you know, that are pushing that agenda, you know, and they're perceived as good people, kind-hearted, you know, much like the hopeful elect. It says, in Jedi clothing even resembled the hooded white robes worn by the Christian warrior monks who took vows of poverty, chastity, and obedience. And no, those people were killing people. A lot of those Knights Templars, they were killing a lot of people. So we're not going to believe that they lived a life of poverty, chastity, and obedience. That was the Israelites, man. Much like the great Jedi purge ordered by Chancellor Palpatine in the Revenge of the Sith. And if you remember that, he was like, okay, we're fucking done with Jedis. Just like they're done with Israel today. They're trying to kill us off. All right. It says Francis King Philip, I believe that is the fifth, annihilated the Knights Templar after arresting hundreds of them, or the sixth maybe, after arresting hundreds of them on October 13th, 1307, and subsequently torturing and executing them for heresy. So why were they trying to execute the Jedis? Because they were coming up against that one world order. And of course, you got the stormtroopers, all right, which are you police today, you military members today. And that's why a lot of those military members have such a big fascination with Star Wars, especially towards these stormtroopers, all right, because they are a stormtrooper. All right, this is the last one. It says Cold War. The intense relationship between the United States and the Soviet Union, with the threat of nuclear annihilation lurking in the background, was hardly history when Star Wars first premiered in 1977. The threat to the planet posed by the nuclear weapons was encapsulated on screen in the ultimate weapon of mass destruction, the Death Star. Okay, and what is the Death Star in today's measure? That is those ICBM intercontinental ballistic missiles. That's what those are. You know what I mean? Because if you remember, the Death Star shot one big fucking ray. And whatever that ray hit, goodbye to your shit. The whole planet. One zap, and it could just blow up a planet. All right? So that's essentially the missiles. You know? These very, very, very high capability nuclear weapons, man. And it says, which destroyed Princess Leia's home planet on Alderaan, a blue orb that closely resembled Earth. Star Wars itself entered the realm of Cold War history after it was adopted by the media in the 1980s as a nickname for President Ronald Reagan's proposed Strategic Defense Initiative, which would have used lasers to defend the United States against incoming nuclear missiles. And that's what it was called, the Star Wars program. And they still to this day believe that they're going to create a laser that can shoot at a high enough frequency to block a nuke. But there's going to be so many of them, right? And the archers are not going to miss. There's going to be so many of them that there's not going to be enough lasers or blockage or iron curtain in order to block it. You know what I mean? So I'm just going to look at these comparisons for Rome. Oh, well, I guess the Spirit wanted to bring that out because I was thinking about the sedition amongst men. This is a good one too. This is the book of Ezra, chapter 4, verse 19. And I commanded, and search hath been made, and it is found that this city of old time hath made insurrection against kings, that rebellion and sedition have been made therein. So that's the beginning of the falling of a kingdom, when there's sedition and infighting. Much like here today, between the Democrats and the Republicans, there's infighting. In the times of Rome, against the Republic and the I can't remember the other group, they were having extreme infighting. Can't find it. But this is a good one. Galatians chapter 5, verse 20. Idolatry, witchcraft, hatred, variance, emulations, wrath, strife, seditions, heresies. Okay, so this is what the entire Edomite group of people use in these politics, right? Idolatry. And there, already know what they got going on. They got the white Jesus. Go out, vote. Jesus wants you to vote, and you know how they get down. They'd probably say Jesus wants you to vote Republican, or Jesus wants you to vote Democrat, or, it's just, they just use that for their game. Witchcraft, which is the media, obviously, along with using women, because they believe if you collect enough women in a room and have them scream and yell, that'll be enough to change the tide of things, which it's not. It's just confusion, hatred, and you already know the so-called white man hates Israel with a passion, and that's why he thinks he's given us the illusion of choice. Variance, and they vary. One day they're this, one day they're that. So-called white man don't know what to do. One day he want to help, next day he want to hurt. He's double-minded as hell. Emulations, and they're emulating nice people, saying, "Oh, we want to help the community. We want to put so and so in office," when ultimately they just want to get a check cut, or they want to do some sort of money laundering scheme or something. These politicians, especially these Edomites, and you damn Israelite politicians too, you damn coons. They're talking about congratulations, because in Texas, I think it was like 20 so-called African-American women became judges. What kind of judges are you? You're going to sit here and give a man a 20-year sentence, right, for selling drugs, yet, she's a fucking adulteress. You know what I mean? A lot of these women judges, they try to act like they're above the law, when ultimately, how about Shimei Shah, man, he makes it so that nobody's above the law. But once again, you give power to these women. They got all sorts of shit. They got a lesbian Native American congresswoman. They got a damn Muslim congresswoman. They got they got some of everything. And women honestly shouldn't be in Congress. That's ridiculous. They shouldn't be in any councils. They shouldn't be giving out any wisdom. You know what I mean? Because they lack understanding. This is obviously in the scriptures. Let's see if it's somewhere in Timothy, I believe. These are still good. But whoso, this is Proverbs chapter 6, verse 32. But whoso committeth adultery with a woman lacketh understanding. He that doeth it destroyeth his own soul. All right? So you can't be dealing with a woman that already has a husband. All right, Proverbs chapter 7, verse 4. Say unto wisdom, thou art my sister, and call understanding thy kinswoman. So those have to be close to you. That wisdom and understanding have to be close to you, much like your family. Well, this is Revelation chapter 17, verse 9. And here is the mind which hath wisdom. The seven heads are seven mountains, right? Which are those nations, right? Those heathen nations, Edomites amongst the rest, whatever, on which the woman sitteth. And that woman, right, is America. Right? All these different councils and all these different things. This is Revelation chapter 17, verse 7. And the angel said unto me, wherefore didst thou marvel? I will tell thee the mystery of the woman, right? And the woman is, once again, Babylon, aka America. And of the beast that carrieth her, which hath the seven heads and 10 horns. And right, and those are those different EUs, NATOs, all the other, groups, beasts, that are part of this system, This system is like a beast, man. It devours everything. This is the book of Revelation, chapter 17, verse 6. And I saw the woman drunken with the blood of the saints and with the blood of the martyrs of Yahushua. And when I saw her, I wondered with great admiration. So at that moment in time, John the Revelator had seen a woman who was accepting the word of the prophets. She was drunken on the blood of the saints. So she was drinking the philosophy, right? That proper philosophy. And when he saw that, he wondered with great admiration. So at that point, he didn't know that people were still worshiping the Most High. Because when the Spirit was put on him to see those visions, it made him marvel because she was getting edified. You know what I mean? Because no matter what happens in this terrible world, Israel is still going to get edified, man. And it's amazing to think about that. No matter what happens, up until the nukes drop, Israel is going to be getting edified in one way or another. So that's just a quick video. I just want to say the comparisons between Russia and the comparison between Russia and America, man, it's like two opposites. The comparison between Russia and Rome is similar. The comparison between Russia and the rest of the world is different. So what I'm saying is Rome can only be America. Because a lot of people say, no, the new Rome is here, or the new Rome is this, or no. Essentially, Babylon can only be America. It's not Russia. Babylon isn't the damn Antarctica. It can only be America. You know what I mean? And shit. In Star Wars, you're constantly seeing how Rome and America are the same thing. So why wouldn't you believe that? Why wouldn't you believe that for the most part these comparisons are matching up? Why wouldn't you believe that Rome is like the Senate in Star Wars, which is also like the Senate here? You just have to have that faith. You have to have that belief, that ultimately the Most High is going to show you these things. So with that, I just want to say Call halal Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shai, Bahashim Rakak Wadash, Wa'ababa Ba. And, death to this beast and this system, and shalom to the hopeful elect.